Truth is Simple. I'm Dave Corm, your host. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. This is episode 12 of season 2. Kind of did that a little backwards that time. And tonight we're going to be talking about what's making me mad. What's making me mad? It's going to be about stress. What's making me mad? Stress. Stress is making me mad. I wanted to say happy Easter to those of you out there of like-mindedness. If you're on spring break, happy spring break to you. But what kind of upset me? I don't really get mad at a lot of stuff anymore. I take it like with a grain of salt. I think it's something I've kind of developed over my old age in time. That after you've seen things happen a lot and you see how things kind of end up at the backside of things happening, you kind of just let things roll off your shoulders and off your back and off of everywhere and just let them happen. But one caught my brow on, I guess it was last Sunday, which would have been Easter Sunday. The probably, I don't know if it's the second most or the first most Christian holiday of the year. My light just went out on my side over here, but that's okay. My face looks good. I'm my own shiny light. Kind of caught my eye. I was looking at my phone. I get some news feeds and stuff on there, and the governor of Michigan, I think her name is Gretchen Whitmer, made a comment on Easter Day about transitioning Easter, or she didn't really make a comment about Easter. She just said today is LGBTQ something day. Or what is it? Something day, something day. Thinking about reflection day or something like that. It's like, okay. So why this is a leap year, so we have 366 days this year. We reserved, I think you can reserve 2 whole days for Christian holidays. One being Easter, the Christian religion's faith, believing that Jesus died on a cross and rose in 3 days. There's still a tomb there, a real tomb with no body in it. So I think the information there is pretty good. Nobody's ever found Jesus's body or his bones or anywhere, and nobody knows where he went. So therefore, he must have probably rose from the dead. So anyway, I don't know if you think that's the most important day of the year if you're a Christian, or if you think Christmas, being his birth, was the most important day of the year. I think they both are highly significant. But our famous governor of Michigan, who nobody really cares or likes or whatever, decided to make that the day to reflect upon the LGBT community when they could have did it on any of the other 364 days of the year and nobody would have cared. So don't know what she did, why she did it. Well, yeah, I do. She's just stirring the pot because she's trying to make a point that she cares more about that community than the 70% or the 76% of Americans who believe that they have a right, probably, may not agree with them, but they have a right to believe what they want to be and believe and be who they want to be. But why do you have to disrupt these 2 Christian days out of the whole year? Why do you have to point it out? Why do you got to make a point of it? There's plenty of other religions out there to pick and choose from. Why do you have to make it the Christian one you pick and choose from? I just don't get it. And if she claims to be a Christian, which if she wants to claim it, so good for her. But she's got to have an awakening day when she meets God and Jesus at the end of this life. If she doesn't believe in Jesus or God, well, I hope she comes around so she can be saved at the back end before it all falls apart on her. That's my personal belief. All right, so anyway, that kind of made me a little, it didn't stress me out. Didn't really make me that mad, but people like that, they're just like out there. So what's making me mad? What's making you mad? What's making us mad? Stress. Stress is become a very productive business for the pharmaceutical companies in the United States. And what do I mean by that? I mean that they are making lots of money off of the doctors who are prescribing the medicines to all these people to make them feel good about themselves and to put all their um, stress in the past. It's making us we are already a very addicted country. It's making us even more addicted to opioids and other types of medicines out there that we don't need to really take. All of us, even me, have gone through stressful situations in our life. I remember I was probably maybe 20 years ago, roughly 20 years ago. I was roughly about a week from filing bankruptcy. I was lucky where I went to a couple guys that I owed some money to, and we renegotiated or rediscussed monies that I owed to them and worked it out mutually. Maybe not to their like, but the alternative of not working it out would have, I don't know, maybe been actually better for them if they would have just let me go into bankruptcy. But anyway, so I was close there and have worked myself up from there, you know, and not like unlike so many other people who have gone through the same kind of stress. I had 4 kids, a wife, maybe 2 dogs and a cat. I was coaching full time. I was working full time. Had a full time business. I had. I don't think I was going to school yet, was I? I don't remember, but I might have been going to school at the same time. So all these things were happening, and we just got into a financial situation, and I needed a way out, and I was able to wiggle my way out without filing bankruptcy. And over the next 30 years, where I am today, I wouldn't say I'm financially rich in any means, manner, or way, but I can semi-retire and live comfortably and enjoy the rest of this part of my life anyway, to, you know, being stuck in a job or something that can control me. And I was talking to my daughter as she was bringing me to the airport this morning in Nashville, how as we're looking at all the cars on the road, I had rode my motorcycle throughout Nashville or Tennessee area this last week, and wasn't any cars on the road anywhere. I mean, I was just like, geez, there's nobody that like lives here. I see tons of houses that, you know, sometimes they're pretty spaced out when you get out of the cities and stuff. They're spaced out, and I was thinking, man, there's really nobody on these roads. I wouldn't buy a house here. It's a highway, but there's only 300 cars that go by this place, even though this is a highway on a given day. 300 cars? I live on a street down here where 10,000 cars go by daily, and so forth. And it's like, wow. And then this morning, while she was taking me to the airport, it's like rush hour, and I'm thinking, look at all the zombies on the road. And, you know, I was a zombie too. That's what we do. We get in our little loops. We wake up in the morning at 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. We get dressed, take a shower, maybe take a shower, get dressed, have something to eat, maybe stop off at a Starbucks or something like that on the way, drive to work, or maybe we have to drive our kids to school first and drop them off. Then we get to go to the Starbucks, and then we're rushing to try to get to work like everybody else during rush hour. And then we do our 8 plus hours, you know, half hour lunch or hour lunch, whatever you get. So you're 8.5 to 9 hours job. Then maybe you have to go pick up your kids, or maybe you have to pick them up at daycare, pick them up from mom and pop, wherever they're being watched after school, or maybe you got to pick them up from school. And then you drive home, and you got all their clubs and all their activities and stuff that are going on. Then you got to run to the grocery store. Maybe you stop and get something to eat. That's why there's so many fast food places out there now. You don't have any money because everything is so much more expensive. So you're actually cooking at home. So then you got to make food at home and make dishes and go to the grocery store and all that stuff. Get them all cleaned up, make sure their homework's done, and get them in bed by, 9 o'clock? None of my students were in bed by 9 o'clock. They'd be sleeping in the classroom. I'd show up in the morning, and they'd show up, and class would start. Luckily, I had like a class where it was mostly hands-on stuff, so I might do a little lecture or something in the front. for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and they're on their own kind of working on something. Uh, they'd start to fall asleep, some of these kids. I wake them up. Hey, why are you sleeping? What time did you go to bed? I went to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they were at school at 7:30 in the morning. Why are you up till 3:30 in the morning? Oh, I was listening to music, or I was playing video games, or I was doing something else on the phone, or chatting with a friend. Hello, parents. Wake up. Put these kids to bed. Take their electronics away. Make sure they go to bed. But we're just so tired, right? We're stressed with all the things. And then we're back up the next morning and doing the same thing all over again. 5 days in a row. And then Saturday and Sunday we show up and we're doing the same thing all over again. They're not sleeping in. We're not sleeping in. Everybody's getting up because they've got stuff to do. Football games, my kids are playing in the game. I got to get them to their game. Or whatever it might be. Or they're doing a dance recital. Or they're doing this or they're doing that. Or I got to be getting my hair done or my nails done. Or that's why we have so much stress. There's a difference between stress and anxiety. I'm going to have you watch a quick video here. Ouch. Video here. Bad shoulder. That hurt. Quick video here on anxiety. So without further ado, it's going to explain something to us.
You know what anxiety feels like.
No, I don't.
We all do. Everyone experiences anxiety in some way or another. It's something that connects all of us together. Why we feel anxiety and what it really is, that may surprise you. Without anxiety, we'd all be in serious trouble. As soon as your brain senses you're in danger, a little piece of it, called the amygdala, kicks in. It gets your body ready to react. That could mean fight, run away, or shut down. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze response. This reaction goes back millions of years to our distant animal ancestors. Animals whose amygdalae were more sensitive to danger were more likely to stay alive and off the menu. Over millions of generations, this developed into the system we all know as anxiety. So you see, anxiety itself is not all bad. But when there's no immediate life or death threat, and your amygdala keeps telling your body that you're in danger, that's when anxiety becomes a problem. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between getting eaten and public speaking or failing a test. Human society has only existed for a relatively short time. It's messy and complicated and confusing, and our amygdalae just haven't had time to catch up. So sometimes, when we're in uncomfortable situations, our brains misread the risk and overreact. Our hearts beat faster and we breathe heavily, pulling more oxygen into our bodies. The muscles in our arms and legs tense up and fill with blood. Our skin perspires to cool us down. This would all be great if we needed to fight or run, but instead, we just feel tense and sweaty. Sometimes our minds go blank and we feel like we can't move or talk. That would be great if we needed to hide. Instead, we just feel stuck. When things trigger our anxiety, sometimes we try to avoid them, like our ancestors avoiding a predator. But that can cause problems when those triggers are important parts of life, like going to school or meeting new people, things that won't just give up and go away. So how does knowing all this help? Well, it starts with remembering what's really going on. There's nothing physically wrong with you. It's just your amygdala trying to tell you it thinks you're in danger, even if it gets confused about how much danger you're really in. Understanding why we feel anxiety is an important step in learning to manage it.
So there you have it. From Canada, believe it or not. Pretty good video. If you want to see more of that, you can go to the YouTube. It's called Fight, Flight, Freeze, Anxiety Explained for Teens. But you know what? It works across all different people and so forth. So I think it works the same for adults. So you kind of wonder how you have these little things popping up in your head, how you want to change and change. Yeah. How are you getting more frustrated and stuff? And, you know, seems like you got a million things going and you can't get anything done. Remember, some of this stuff is not actually stress, it's anxiety. You may have multiple things that are causing anxiety, which can eventually lead towards stress. And then you just have to start eliminating those things. In the past, I would take them, internalize them, and I never sought counseling. I never got medicine. I don't. Hopefully, you won't do that as well. Counseling, maybe you might need that, but I think we are an over doctorized, over drugized populace. We just have to learn that the things we're dealing with and going through are just reality. I mean, we never had all the symptoms and problems and so forth, the diagnoses 100 years ago. You don't think these things existed 100 years ago, that they're all relatively new? No, we've grown in science and we've started to diagnose these things that were kind of unheard of and unknown, but those persons, those people are predecessors, our grandparents and our great grandparents, and maybe even some of our parents, if they're still alive today, had the same problems, but yet they got through life just fine. I hate to say sometimes you got to man up a little bit, but maybe, we have to man up a little bit or woman up a little bit and realize, this is just how life works. Deal with it, work through it, and get through it. And get through it. You don't need the drugs. You don't need the psychologist to tell you how to live your life and what to do, because most of us don't have the money to afford and pay for those people. Just realize you're not alone. It happens to a lot of people. You are not going through anything that nobody else has probably never had to go through. You're just repeating the same cycles we all go through. So what are some of the factors that cause these things on a day-to-day basis? The community in which we live in. Whether you're watching a YouTube channel, a TikTok page, or you're involved in a community through that social media platform, you're conforming or deciding not to conform based upon what you're seeing and what you're listening to and what you're hearing. Those are powerful mediums. They didn't have those 30, 40, 50 years ago. So therefore, that's a different level of information that's coming to you on a readily available method that didn't exist. We are probably being oversaturated with information as opposed to our predecessors, our grandparents and great grandparents and so forth. So, but you got to take that into context. You have to learn to filter some of that stuff out. And just because somebody says something and they say it over and over and over again doesn't make it right. That's called brainwashing and propaganda. You have to be able to see through that. We've talked about propaganda a lot over the last few weeks. Your family. None of us want to listen to our family, right? Especially when you're a teenager, when you start to get probably around 10, 11 years old, up until maybe your mid-20s, late 20s. Our family are dumb. They don't understand me. I mean, there are some of you out there that still love, care for your family and listen to every word they say, take it into consideration, and then make your own determination. And I think that's wise. That's how we should all do it. But if I've gone through a life process that I see you're about to enter, how am I doing you an injustice by telling you what I went through if it helps you get through it too? Right? Makes kind of common sense. We're not all stupid, My parents weren't stupid. I never pushed them down or put them down or said anything negative to them about, anything they've told me. I listened to everything. Did I do 100% of what they told me? Not all the time. That's the renegade, the free will that's inside of each one of us that God has freely given to us. The free will and determination to know right and wrong, to do right and wrong, to think straight and clear or not to think, to follow our peers or to be on our own and follow our values and morals. Sometimes it might agree with our peers, but sometimes it might be totally opposite of our peers. So family, school, education, and sports. Lots of stressors there. Always pushing to be good. Get those A's. B's and C's aren't going to get you into the university. They're not going to get you a scholarship. You got to be the best athlete so you can get that sports scholarship to get into the school of your choice, right? Well, that's not going to happen for everybody. I got hurt as a junior in high school. I was one of the top players on my high school football team. I did all right on the soccer team. That was a brand new sport for me back in those days, 40 years ago. But there's never been more pressure on our kids than today to get those good grades and so forth in school. Peer pressure is off the charts. You know what? It's just off the charts. It was pretty bad when I was younger. When probably most of you were younger as well. You know, we had to live up to our friends and so forth. Otherwise, we didn't have any friends. And who wants that, right? But peers are not always right. And depending on what their morals and values are, what their makeup, where they come from, what they believe in, who they're listening to at home, who they're watching on their or connecting to on their social media, may be good. It most likely may not be good. All right, so knowing that causes stressors and anxiety as well. Live it up. I have to wear the same clothes. I have to have my hair the same this way. I can't be hanging around with my parents or my brothers and sisters. It's just not what anybody does. All that kind of stuff. Religions, they have their own set of morals and values. I've found that they're traditionally for the family and for the community and that type of thing. We are a self-centered nation at this point. We like to think that we are very giving and thinking and caring of everyone out there, but we're not. We're the completely opposite. We're so self-centered in ourselves. And you can tell by looking at our phones and being on our phones and being on social media and not being around people or having conversations, not spending time at dinner with each other to have a meal and discuss our day. All these social things that are important to who and what we become in life. It's important, and a lot of that starts with our religious background and our religious beliefs. It's who we are, what makes us who we are and what we are, and what we then bring out to the community and the rest of the world. And then our work. You know what? A lot of stressors are there. I don't know my job very well, or I'm afraid that if I do something wrong, I'm going to get fired, or one more late day. If I'm late one more time, I'm going to lose my apartment. I'm going to lose my car. I'm not going to have food on the table. I'm going to have to move back in with my parents, or I'm going to have to live on the street. So all of these things are stressors. Some are full of anxiety, but some are also can bring stress, especially depending on how we're performing and what we're doing. And they all back tie to our morality and our values. Work-wise, are you showing up on time? Are you showing up early? Are you making yourself available? Are you staying late? Are you asking questions to those who know what you need to know so you can succeed? Are you asking for help when you need it? Are you being somebody that's taking the lead, or somebody that's just doing enough to get by with in your life or in your job? Do you care about your job? Do you care about others you're working with? Are you helping them? Are they helping you? Are you listening to them, or are you always telling them what to do? So all of these things are important. They all bring about anxiety and stress in our lives. And a lot of that stuff can be released by us taking some time. For me, it was working out, going to the gym. After work, I bodybuilded for a few years, in my early 30s, for about 3 or 4 years. But I've always lifted weights. It was always a way for me to, after work in law enforcement, to go relieve some stress, or sometimes when I was bodybuilding, I actually go in the morning, and sometimes I'd go at night after work to relieve stress of the day. Law enforcement can be a very stressful time. It gets my mind off of it. I could work out. I could have conversations with people. I could watch other things going on in the gym other than thinking about the things that happened at work that day. So for me, it was a very huge part of my life in relieving my stress. And to some aspect, it's still that. And as a side benefit, it's helped me be able to physically stay in better health. I've always been a borderline blood pressure, hypertensive person. Even when I was in law enforcement in my 20s and stuff, I was 140 over 90, 140 over 80 type person. Sometimes it would be a little bit lower in the 130s and so forth, but I was always right there on the border of hypertension. And still today, I kind of still am in that perspective, in that area in my life. But I've never taken drugs. I've always managed it through diet and exercise and so forth. And I would challenge you to do the same. Try not to take medicines. Try not to take drugs. There might be a point where you need it, but don't easily, just because your doctor says you need it, start taking it. That's my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. But I think we're an overly drugged population. And not that your doctor in and of themselves is trying to lead you in an appropriate way, or is making a mint of money from prescribing medications for you from these pharmaceutical companies. But the pharmaceutical companies are there. They're trying to make money. I think they have, not all of them, but some have from what I've seen from news reports and that type of thing. I haven't done an investigation. But I'm an American citizen. I'm entitled for my First Amendment right of speech and saying what I believe. And I believe some of them have abused their position and have pushed their medicines on the doctors and so forth to use it, giving them special money and so forth for doing it, who then again do the same with the political persons in office. So that is just my personal belief. You can dismiss it if you don't believe it, don't want to believe it. That's fine. You can do your own information, but at least I brought it up so you could think about it, right? And because I'm not totally negative against any kind of drugs. I think they are important for some people in some instances, but I think we are an over-medicated population. When you probably look at our consumption of prescription drug use here in the United States versus other countries throughout the world, you will find that we are taking way more medications in this population than other populations throughout the world. So I don't think we're any more crazy here than any other nation or any more sick than any other nation, but there's a reason for why we are as to why they're not. And I'm saying do your investigation in that. All right. Wow, that was a lot. But I think you need to find a way to release your stress. I'm going to play a short video here about kind of the difference between anxiety and stress. So let's take a look at that real quick, and I'll be back.
All the information you need there on breathing exercises, mindfulness, and all of that good stuff. Stress, anxiety, two words that sometimes we use interchangeably, right? But they are actually different, and they can affect you in different ways.
A lot of people think they're the same thing, and now we spoke with an expert to break down the difference so you can know what you're dealing with.
The symptoms can be similar: insomnia, difficulty concentrating, digestive troubles. But there are differences when it comes to stress and anxiety.
Anxiety is a mental health disorder. Stress is not.
We went to the expert, Dr. Daniel Kirsch, the president of the American Institute of Stress.
Stress is physiology. It's a normal reaction to any demand placed on us. And we say that we're stressed when we feel that the demands placed on us overwhelm our ability to complete tasks.
Dr. Kirsch says controlling what stresses you can go a long way in preventing anxiety.
Stress should just go away after the event. Anxiety can linger. And anxiety is often created in the mind. It's the fear of the unknown, what's going to happen next. Worrying about the future is a lot of anxiety. If they learn how to control their stress, they won't have these problems. The mood disorders, anxiety, depression, insomnia, sleeping problems, all of that can be easily controlled. You can really achieve optimal health.
Dr. Kirsch says the best thing you can do to ward off both stress and anxiety is to learn how to relax. And Dr. Kirsch suggests a suggestion on relaxation. Number one is meditation, but he also recommends yoga, Tai Chi, and of course practicing mindfulness. And we actually talked about that in a previous segment, how you can practice mindfulness, as well as a whole bunch of other pieces of advice on how to control your stress and anxiety. We have all of those stories from this week on how to bust stress on our website, cbsdfw.com. All the information you need there on breathing exercises, mindfulness, and all of that good stuff, Keith.
I finally know.
All right, he was going to say something kind of funny, but in reality, it's not. So I'm just going to stop it right there. I think he makes himself look a little silly. Not that I'm not making myself look a little silly as well, but I want to show you one page that you can go look at some information. So here you go. I think it's right up here at the top. You can see it's stress.org. You can go to that website and find some good information about it. I think the video that I just showed you is linked here. I think if you click on this scene right here, it takes you to what you just watched. But take some time and do some investigation. Find out some information. Not that you have to pay a bunch of money, but knowledge is important. I think if you take some time and kind of do some research for yourself, your own mental health, you're going to go a long way making your life so much better than if you kind of sit on the fence and then you decide, you know what, I really need to find some help, and you take your medical insurance and you go to a doctor. He does a physical on you and then maybe sends you to some specialist somewhere, and then they prescribe you some medicines. And I think that might be where you might need to go down the road, but to start you off that way is definitely not where you want to go. Take some time, do some homework, do some research. The internet is full of information. You have to weed yourself through it, but look for backup sources as you're doing your research. Meaning, if you go to this stress.org and you find something that is of interest and you think it sounds like it would work and it sounds sound science, see if you can find it somewhere else on the internet from a different source. And if you could find that 2 or 3 times, then it might be a good opportunity to utilize that and or bring it up with your doctor, as opposed to just going to your doctor with nothing. Some doctors, they're humans. They're just like you and I. Unless that is his specialty, you may know, if you do your research, you may just know just as much or more than he is. We're only humans. If it's in his specialty, then you might want to just corroborate his information through a couple other sources, because that's what all smart people do. All things, they call it medicine a practice for a reason, because it's not black and white for the most part. There are parts of it that are practiced, and they, through trial and error, and not everything works for everyone. Through trial and error, they figure out what works most often for most people. But you could be that one exception that it may not work for. So think about that. And so I'm just telling you, don't get hooked up on the drugs, and find ways. I found over time for myself, the gym was a good way of stress relief, but also considering and weighing the item. So kind of a reflection, like they were talking about, reflecting upon the item that's causing the stress, and what does it mean in the overall purpose of your life? Is this one thing really worth worrying about, having so much stress about? If it's not having a place to live, if it's not having food on the table where you could feed you or your family, most likely it is very pressing and very stressful. But there are people and services out there that can help you. Don't be afraid to use them. Most of them are willing to give you a hand up from where you are. If they need to give you a hand out for a short period of time, they'll do that. But they'll also find a way to give you a hand up out of where you are and back into where you want to be in life. 30 years ago, I was 1 week away from being bankrupt, losing my house, losing my cars. I probably would have still had my job, but I would have lost my business that I had running on the side. So it would have been rough times. I found a way and a means to get out of that issue. I've had in law enforcement, I've had a few things that crossed my path. Being a business owner, a few things that have crossed my path that really have stressed me. Being a corporate general manager, working for a couple of Indian gaming casinos and working there, very stressful situations. And I just realized that even all these things that are happening, and it's hard to do, it's something that I still fall into myself, even though I would like to think that I'm perfect at it. Some of the things you fall back into that stresses you and gets you upset, and you can't sleep, you can't eat, you don't know what you're going to do about it, or maybe with your life or others around you, you feel like you can't talk to anyone about it. I would suggest you just take some time and visualize, and then find that one person you can confide in, whether it's a brother or a sister, a mother or dad, a grandparent. somebody you don't know if you feel better about that, as long as it's confidential with them in some means, manner, or way, that it's not going to get out and be reflected back upon you. But you need to find somebody that you can lean on from time to time. But stay away from the drugs as much as you can. Or the alcohol and those types of things. Those are not going to help you. It may help you in that immediate time, at that second, but it's not going to get you out of where you are, or where you and back to where you want to be. Take some time and every so often, you get through that busy day of what I said, getting up, taking your kids to school, getting coffee, going to work, having lunch, picking your kids up after school or from the daycare center, getting dinner made, making sure their homework's done, all these things, taking them to practice or whatever they were doing on the side, their hobby or whatever, put it into bed and do it again 5 days a week. You need to find a little piece of time for you to just maybe sit in a chair, maybe not watch TV, to think about your life, think about what's going on, think about ways you can improve it, make it better, how you can get out of the rut that you're in and get into something else that's going to give you support. I don't know what that might be. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's many friends, but you still need that solitude, that little piece of time. Even though I was at the gym, when I said I used that as a main way for me to get rid of stress, a lot of the time while I was at the gym, even, and it was crowded full of people, other than seeing them and waiting at a machine, my mind was not with them in that gym. My mind was somewhere else. My body was going through all the motions and so forth of lifting the weights and running on the treadmill or doing the stair stepper. My body was physically there, but my mind wasn't always in the exercise. It was thinking about all these other things that relieved my stress, other than the things at work. Whether it was looking at a screen of a the newer bikes have like the little screens, video screens and so forth, where they'll have like a visual of hiking through the mountains or biking through the mountains or something like that. I was somewhere else, thinking about places I had been that I enjoyed and did and so forth. The relationships I've had with my family or my friends and other things, it was a stress relief. It was a way just to get rid of stuff. So maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But stress is there. It's always going to be there. It's neither good nor bad unless you let it become bad. But just realize stress is important for us to succeed and move in life. If don't have any stress in your life, you're not going anywhere. So you got to have some stress. You just need to be able to know how to manage it and to move on to it, and how to brush that stuff that's not important, that seems so important, off your shoulders and out of your mind and off your back, and just let it fall away. We all have those instances and things in life. So with that said, I'm going to end it right there. I gave you a website to go to. I'll pop it back up one more time for you to look at. So right here, it's stress.org. You can find some good information, a good jump off point, starting point. And from there, you can kind of move on and do some more research and just find some time for yourself to reflect upon life, your life, and those things that are really important to you, and not those things that seem so imminently important right at this second. I always thought, if I went into bankruptcy, and my kids are grown up now, it's just me and my wife. But if we would have went into bankruptcy, it would have been hard for us to dig out. But I knew that we could. But I didn't want my kids to get to that point. So I took steps in the process of where we almost went bankrupt to find a way out. And fortunately, in that instance, it worked. And once I got through that, it was really hard. But once I got through that really hard part of that time of my life, it helped me in the future to where I am today. I have not repeated the steps that got me into that situation in the past. So in that aspect, that stress was good because it taught me something. All right, so if you like what you heard today, I hope you will share this with someone else. I hope it will work for you. I didn't really have any idea what I was going to talk about tonight, other than Gretchen Whitmer. She kind of stressed me out this last weekend, with the comment about how the LGBTQ community should be realized today, and thought about the Remembrance Day and so forth on Easter. It stressed me out. No, it didn't. It didn't really stress me out. And anyway, you guys have a great week. Hopefully we'll see you here next week. Take care and have a good evening.